we go. So I was just mentioning that for those who have never taken a class with me, welcome. For those who have taken a class with me, also welcome. This is what I look like for those who've never seen my
Hey, sir.
excited.
Good evening, guys.
Yeah, so for those who've never seen my face, this is what I look like. There's going to be most of the time I try to share my video, but there are times where I'm not going to be able to. And of course, I'll explain why at a point in time. It's not mandatory for you to share your video. If you can, great. But if not, it's not mandatory at all. So for those who are taking a class, and all of you should know, this class is going to be about Splunk backend. You don't need any prior experience with Splunk to necessarily take this class. It makes it a lot easier if you do have experience, but you don't need to have experience. And it's very much hands-on. It's not going to be a lot of just me talking. It's going to be me either demoing or me asking you to demo using your screen, and we're going to walk through a lot of these things. All right, so the main things that I'm going to ask for you to do in this class is just try. That's going to be the biggest thing. It's you giving yourself the opportunity to learn and grow by doing. Asking me a lot of questions is not bad, but doing a lot of things in terms of you actually putting in the work yourself is what's going to make you successful with this course. It's going to be a lot of hands-on and a lot of me telling you, go Google, go do this. Just because on your regular, 9 to 5, you have to go Google, you have to go read, and you have to do a lot of stuff on your own. So I try to get you guys to do a lot of that stuff on your own, just so it makes it a lot easier. And that way you're not asking me a bunch of questions, expect me to give you answers, because for those of you who are looking to get a job after this, I can't help you on your job, every single second, or every single minute that you're on a job. This is where you get that help from. When you get your own job, you're now able to do stuff on your own. You can Google, you can research, you can do all of these things on your own without necessarily calling on SAR to do X, Y, and Z for you. Excuse me. All right. So with that being said, let's stop there for just a second. Any questions before I go through what you will need?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. All right. So if there's no questions, we can get ready to get started. So. All right, so it looks like there aren't no questions. All right, perfect. So let me share my screen and we can go from there. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you cannot see my screen. So looks like everybody can see my screen. So let's do a new window. Okay. Matter of fact, since I'm on multiple screens, I'm going to probably share another screen here. So let's do this. I'm going to move this here. To start sharing. And I'm going to share screen 3. All right, so everybody should be able to see my desktop 3 now. Should have iPhone 12 here. So the first thing that you'll need is you'll need an Amazon account. For anyone that does not have an Amazon account or has not created one, I had mentioned that earlier. Either have an Amazon account or have a Azure or some type of account where you're going to be creating a cloud server. Is there anyone that does not have, one of these kinds of accounts that does not have one?
I don't have one yet.
Okay. Is that Steven? Who's that said that?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. So yeah, you'll have to create an account. It's very simple, very easy. During this class, at some point in time, just go in and create one. So what this allows us to do then is, since it's a backend class, we're going to be building a bunch of servers. You can either build a server using Amazon or AWS, or you can build it using Azure. So you can sign up for an Azure, a free account. I don't really care what you use. Ideally, it would be easier for you to use AWS since that's the platform that I'm going to be using. But you don't have to use that. So once you sign up for your AWS account, this is just going through the whole process and setting this up. It's very, very simple. Just follow the steps and it'll tell you basically how to sign up for the account. You will then be able to get to a screen like this that's going to have all of that information that you'll need to basically log into your root account. So let me do that. Open gmail.com. Okay. 5 p.m. That's it. This is the annoying part about some of the stuff with AWS and some of your accounts too. Other accounts you may have to deal with the same. 22. Let's be. That's so annoying. R7.
I think there's a space between the 7, or is not?
Usually I don't really care.
I think that's what is going on there. Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, FRYH. Looks like BB, right? BB. Oh my God, there's so much. OpenPath LLC. Oh, I think that's why OpenPath LLC.ga. That's why. That's why. All right. X5RY4X. All right. I was entering the wrong email. All right. So another thing I would encourage you guys to strongly get is a thing called password manager. So this is a password manager right here. It's a password repo. So the reason I'm logging in and showing you I'm logging in is that the password is still hashed on here. So this allows you essentially to use multiple different passwords, secure passwords. You can not have to worry about writing down your passwords one by one. So let me use my MFA. So for those who aren't familiar with the MFA or multi-factor authentication, this is just basically how you were able to set up a different way for you to authenticate to say I'm really who I say I am. In most environments, especially security environments, you do have MFAs. So I set up an MFA just for my own personal account. You don't have to have this for your AWS account, but I set it up just to simulate what you typically will have to do. So let's do this 202.528 code here. All right. So once that's done, you'll then get into your AWS account, and then this is what this will look like. So, and here's where we're going to launch a virtual machine. So for those who aren't familiar with some IT concepts, virtual machines, just think about it as like having a laptop that you're creating from another laptop. So on your local laptop, you have the option or the ability to create another instance. And another instance essentially is just, you can create, let's say on your laptop, you typically buy a laptop that has 2 CPU and maybe 8 gigs of RAM, and has, I don't know, 64 gigs as far as hard drive. So you can then provision on top of your laptop or inside your laptop, you can then provision another space where you can then create basically another, laptop essentially, but that laptop is a virtual laptop. It's not like a physical hard laptop. So you do essentially the same thing when you are in AWS or in Azure or in any of these other cloud providers. You're basically just saying you have a big computer, somewhere, in a data center. And now I want to use that big computer that you have that has, maybe 64 CPU and has, 256 gigs of RAM and, and 10 terabytes worth of storage, hardware storage. You say, I need to use a little bit of that to create maybe a small machine that's going to be able to do some more work for me. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be creating a bunch of smaller machines from somebody else's laptop or somebody else's server. And from there, we're then going to connect those laptops together to be able to communicate to one another and do a bunch of work. That's the clustering piece that we're going to do with Splunk. So we're going to be doing a lot of that fairly often, but we're going to start with just initially building just a small component of Splunk on one small instance. But for right now, all you need to worry about, for those who have no clue what I'm talking about, is we're going to basically build a computer that has Splunk on it using a cloud server that we're going to be renting, essentially. So that's literally what we're going to be doing. And before we get into all of that, I'm going to explain exactly what Splunk is, how Splunk works, some of the different components of Splunk, and then we'll go from there. Any questions so far?
No question.
All right, perfect. All right, so let me hide this and let's get started. So I'd like to Google a lot in front of you guys, just so that you guys can know that I Google a lot, just like many other engineers I work with. We Google a lot. So learn to Google, learn to Google, learn to Google. So we're going to Google Splunk architecture. We're going to go to images. This is all stuff that you can do. This is nothing that's like super, just, fancy out there. This is just some basic stuff I'm just showing you. So we're going to open this image. We're going to open this image in a new tab. And then we're going to be able to look at this image here. I don't necessarily like this one because it's not as clear as I thought it was going to be. But this is the version of this one that I like. But actually, I need to explain to you guys this one too. And these are the same images I used for my last class. This is for front end. I'm just going to teach you sort of like the high level basics, and then from there we'll go into more of like the deeper, dive of Splunk. So open this one in a new tab, and then we'll open this one in a new tab. Right. So this is nothing crazy as far as magic, and all these images are ugly. Take a look. All right, so yeah, this is much better. I don't know why this is it because I opened it? Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. So we're going to use this image, and I'm going to now copy this exact image. I'm going to drop this in the class for you guys to have access to it. But there's no magic behind this. All right. So in a basic explanation, right? So we're going to use this as probably our second image. The other one I want to use is, just had it. There we go. this guy. All right, so we're going to use this one here. All right, so there we go. So this is Splunk at a high level. So for those who have no clue what Splunk is, Splunk basically is a tool in most environments that's used to collect data, regardless of the kind of data it is. It's used to collect data from all over different environments. And it basically puts that into a storage, into its database, and it keeps that data for you so that you can search for that data whenever you want to search for it. So for instance, let's say you have a TV, or many of you have different kinds of TVs, right? You can then ingest data from your TV if you install certain types of agents that, if it's allowed, based on the TV, to collect data from those TVs. And then basically it can tell you, what kind of programs, is SAR watching on, his TV on a day-to-day basis. Or you can install it in most work environments, in your customers' clients' laptops. So one of the use cases that I've gotten many times in my job is to install Splunk on a person's Windows or Unix, which is a MacBook laptop, and then basically collect those logs from those different laptops and then send that into Splunk. Why would you want to do that? Well, number one, for security reasons, you want to make sure that if somebody has a laptop that can get onto your network, meaning that if you get a job and your job gives you a laptop, and that laptop has access to get into a network through a VPN or something like that, you would then need to be able to monitor what that thing is doing on your network. Just like if you work for a bank and you go inside of the bank and you log in on a day-to-day basis, do whatever it is you work, on a branch, or in a branch rather. Once you log in and you start typing and doing whatever, and you start moving monies around, let's say you're a teller or your manager, whatever it is, you want to be able to track what the heck that user is doing. So Splunk is one of those tools that can track that. It's an application that can sit and track not only what stuff is happening on your laptop directly, but what's also happening within applications on your laptop. So if you have, a Facebook app, if you have, let's say you have a banking app, if you have an app that's used to log into, let's say, a customized system that you use to, give data about users, whatever that application is, really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Splunk can monitor that application by reading the logs that the application logs to, and then it can then say, okay, SAR Levy at 9:30 on Tuesday logged into an application on this specific laptop, and he was doing X, Y, and Z. And then 30 minutes later, SAR Levy then accessed the database that exists on another server, and he did X, Y, and Z. And then 15 minutes later, SAR Levy was seeing going on the internet, and then he was sharing something on a website that came from the database that had this, or came from another application that had some secret information that SAR sharing now based upon what we see on the network traffic on some illegal website. So basically then Splunk allows you to merge all of this information that's collected across different data sets, and then allows you to say, okay, so now we can streamline what's happening from all these different sorts of data sets, whether it's TV information, your phone information, your laptop, whether it's an application, whether you're doing something over the internet. As long as you're connected and Splunk can read access to the logs, it can then say, I can now tell you exactly what SAR Levy was doing from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock p.m. Based upon me having the logs to read that, and Splunk being able to access everything that he's doing at that period in time. So that's what Splunk allows us to do at a very high level. There's a lot more things that it allows us to do, but just at the base level, just know that Splunk is just a tool that collects information, and then you can then aggregate that information to tell a story, based upon what use case you're trying to solve. So whether it's for security, whether it's for operations to make sure people are coming into work on time, whether to make sure people aren't spending money that they shouldn't be spending, to make sure your developers are developing the right type of applications and that they're making progress. There's so many different use cases of the Splunk. It's just the tip of the iceberg is just you understanding what Splunk can do, and then from there it's you being able to create a different sort of use cases from there. So any questions in regards to that? And I like questions, by the way. I like when people are engaging and ask, sensible questions. And nothing is a dumb question. It's just that I want you guys to more so think about your questions as you're asking your questions. But as you're asking your questions, also think about, if you own a company, what are some things you would use Splunk for? So if I own a hair salon, or if I own a barbershop, or if I own a IT company, or if I own, a traveling company, whatever it is, how would I use Splunk now to be able to capture information about, what's happening in my environment? So think about things like that, because those kinds of questions are what you'll get oftentimes in interviews. So any questions so far? Anything I'm not explaining well that I need to explain?
No.
And be honest as well. If there's something that's just like, oh, it's not clicking, this doesn't make sense, be honest with me so I can at least, know what it is I'm not explaining well. And then that way I can make it a lot better. But if not, I'm going to continue on.
So far, so good.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we now have a high level understanding what Splunk is supposed to do. So these are the main components of Splunk that I want you to worry about at this initial stage. There's more, but the initial stage is what I want you to worry about. You have your search head, which is this. You have your indexers, and then you have your forwarders. So when you are trying to Google something, what you'll come to is, google.com. So your search head basically is like your google.com. It's basically where you can now search anything that's in your database. Your database is your indexers. So this is where all your data exists. So this is probably the most important thing that's out there. Search head doesn't really matter. You can spin up search heads many times. And if the data is not there, you don't have anything. Just like, when people get hacked, this is the thing that they're usually more so worried about, whether it's like your security information, whether it's your email addresses, your passwords, your accounts, whatever it is where your money is stored. All that stuff is stored inside of some type of database. That's usually what hackers go after. So on the Splunk side, this is your most important piece of component. There's many other components, but this is the most important piece right here, because this is where your data exists. This is where you create rules as far as how long you're going to keep the data, who has access to what kind of data, is all exists inside of here, because it's separated based upon what exists here. And then your forwarders are basically the agents. In IT, you're going to hear a lot of terminologies that refer to agents. So oftentimes you have applications that require you to install agents. So these agents basically like collectors. So think about it, if you are trying to do a survey, right? So if you're doing a survey for Census Bureau or something like that, right? So for the Census Bureau, they'll send out a bunch of workers out there to go collect information about, whatever, to say, hey, we need to know who lives in that house. So they'll come to your house then, and then they'll collect that information. And then they'll then type that information up into something and then put it into a central database. So that's what the forwarders are. They're agents. Now, these agents aren't stuff that come to your house or come to your systems and then just get the data and then leave. They're actually installed on your systems permanently to collect that information and then send it to your indexers. So that's what the forwarders are. They're basically agents that exist on these different, what they call endpoints. So your laptop is an endpoint, your end servers are endpoints, your firewalls could be endpoints, your TV could be an endpoint. There's a whole bunch of different things that exist out there that could be endpoints, but for the most part, just know that it's basically where you're going to be collecting your logs from. That's typically going to be the endpoint. So any questions in regards to that? All right, so let's do this. Network, let's do architecture. All right, so let's look at a quick network architecture. Get this person in. All right, so let's do something that's not going to make you guys go crazy. All right, excuse me. All right, so let's open this in a new image. So here we go. So this is like a basic architecture, basic network architecture. So here, there's a lot going on, but just pay attention just to a few things. So think about this is the end user. This is people's laptops, right? And they go through a layer 2 switch, so or firewall, and then once you go through here, it's basically saying, I need to be able to send my logs. I need to be able to do something. So that something could be, I need to go to connect to this end user's laptop. So for this guy to go connect to this guy, it needs to go out to a device or an appliance, layer 2 appliance right here, that's going to basically have some local rules to tell it, okay, you need to contact this guy. So you're going to go through this switch right here to be able to connect to this guy. It's just a basic, think about you're in your house and you need to talk to your laptop that's upstairs. So in a basic network diagram, you may be able to go through, or you may have to go through a switch to be able to go communicate to another device that's in your network. That's in many environments, you'll have that as standard. And similarly with the layer 3 switch then is basically, this allows you to have like a firewall rules. So then what would happen in this case with Splunk is you would install Splunk on this endpoint right here, which is, a user's, this, let's say this is Saidu's laptop, or this is David's laptop, or Loic's laptop. You install Splunk on these laptops here. Any activity that they do to communicate to this guy, or if they go out here and they need to go to another campus branch and talk to another computer here, all this activity then is monitored based upon what traffic is being collected here. But then also you would install a forwarder either here, but sometimes some of these devices don't allow you to install a third-party device on it. So what you would do then is you would install the Splunk agent. Maybe you install that on a, let's see, where would I do this if this was me? I would probably install this. I would create a another node or another VM, virtual machine, as we were talking about before. And I will set that virtual machine somewhere in this area over here. So then that virtual machine then would then be responsible to collect information from all of these different appliances or devices or endpoints. And then it would sit centrally, and then it will collect that information, and then it will send that information to wherever my Splunk is located. So let's say Splunk in this example is located, let's say Splunk is located over on central Splunk is located over here. So that when I say Splunk, whenever I talk in regards to Splunk being located somewhere, let's hide this. I'm talking in regards to your indexers. So let's say my indexers are going to be located over here. That's my main location where my indexers and all my Splunk environment is set. So what would happen then is I would have a machine that's here that's collecting information from all of these other different appliances, because Splunk is sitting on that machine, and then it would send and forward that data to my indexers over here. So that's what we see over here with our forwarders. So you would have a machine somewhere over here, just like one of these over here. You'll build a machine over here, and that machine then would basically collect all the logs. These guys will forward all its information to this server that's sitting somewhere over here. All of these would be collecting information, and then it would then forward that to my Splunk indexers, which are here. And then on your end, as a user, then you can then have your search heads be able to search your indexers. Your search heads can live either on the same server or they can live on different servers. Typically, it's better to create multiple servers, different functions, meaning that you're not going to install a forwarder, indexer, and a search head. You're not going to have everything be all in one. You're going to separate their responsibilities because this guy has a responsibility to keep data. This guy has responsibilities to search data. This guy's responsibility is to forward data. So you would separate the roles there. So what you'll have here is a bunch of agents here, orders collecting logs, and then they'll send that data now to your indexes, which are over here. Then you can have these other computers or virtual machines now be search heads, which then will search this guy as your indexer and say, hey, what information do you have about all of the different sorts of activity in my environment? So at a high level, does that make sense?
Sure.
Any questions about that?
Question. A question. So that VM that you will trade, right? Are you going to install like a forwarder on that VM instead of installing it through the endpoint?
Great question. Yes, yes. So that new VM. So what he's asking is, remember that new computer I said that we're going to create, the virtual machine? You will install a forwarder on that virtual machine. And then that forwarder now, that virtual machine now is going to act as basically like one of these guys, but just has a forwarder installed. And now it's going to be sending the logs. The only thing special about this guy is that it's not collecting logs from this, all these other different endpoints. And then it's sending it. And the only reason that that's different is because, remember, the layer 3 switch, the layer 2 switches, firewalls, and some of your other appliances may not want or may not allow you to install Splunk agents on them because they're special kinds of appliances that they don't deal well with third-party applications. So what you'll do then is you install the agent on a virtual machine that you'll build. And then on most of these appliances, I would say 99% of them, they allow you to forward the logs, what's happening on that switch itself or that firewall. They allow you to forward what's happening there to something else. So you can forward the logs somewhere. So that's what typically happens in most environments. You can forward the logs from this, whatever is happening traffic-wise, you can forward that over here. So if SAR Levy wants to go to the education ERP servers to grab some information that's over here, all of that traffic is going to be logged through these different appliances here. So as I go through here, then I go through this core switch that goes through this core firewall IPS, go through here. All that traffic is now being logged at these different stages. And then everything that's logging this information now is going to be sent to my virtual machine that I built, which has a forwarder on it. And then that's going to send that log to my indexers. And then now I have information as far as all the activity that SAR is doing in my network. Any questions about that? Look, did I answer your question? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So again, high level forwarders get installed on the endpoints, and then indexers are the collectors, which basically are not collectors, but the data warehouse where you keep your data. They call these guys the collectors because they collect information. And then your search heads are basically what searches that information out. So this is like your Google. So whenever you log in from, let's say the internet, right? And you need to connect to your environment's network. So let's do another network architecture. Let's pull something else. Let's do And I like to do this so that you guys can understand like how this works in most environments. So sweet. So let's open up this image now. Another basic network architecture. So client VPN users, right? And then internet, wide area network port, server LAN, internet, data LAN. So some of the stuff you don't have to really worry about what I'm talking about, but at the base level, if I wanted to log into, do I have Global Protect on here? Let me see. Do I don't. I wish I did. I would have showed you guys that. But anyway, so if I wanted to access, my one of the clients I work with, if I wanted to access their information. So let's say they have a database that has some information on it that I need to access. What I would do is I would log into my VPN that they created on my local laptop. That local laptop then is establishing a secure connection through the internet. And then it goes down to whatever different appliances that it needs to connect to. It makes that connection. And then now you have a secure access to any of the internal virtual local area network. That's what the VLAN means. And then WAN is wide area network. You have access now to any of the clients' information, essentially, or resources that exist internally. So think about if you need to connect to, let's say you work at a bank and you need to connect to the resources in a bank, in a branch that is located 20 minutes from your house. So in order for you to connect there, you need to go through a VPN because that creates that secure connection. And then now you can access all the resources. So you can access, different people's like banking information. You can access your if you're a branch manager, all your different clients that you manage. You can access all their, activity in terms of like what they've been doing recently. All that stuff is, private information that you can access now because now you're within that client's private network. So not just anybody can do it. You just can't go on the internet and go access some, internal stuff that people can access. When you go through Google, what essentially happens is most of these resources you can access, they're located internally, but it's not stuff that feeds information to you that's, private information. But if you work for Google yourself, what you access is completely different from what a normal user like me or, whoever else accesses, because you don't have that VPN now that allows you to go into Google's actual internal network to do X, Y, Z. So I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that doesn't. So in regards to, what I was talking about with, Splunk and whatnot, you would then use your VPN then to connect through the internet to a client's internal network. And then what you would do is you will access, let's say this serves as a web server. And this web server now is going to be what your search head is. It's like a web server because it now allows you to connect over the internet to access a resource over the web. And it provides you that capability now to search what's connected to your storage system, which is your indexers. So you connecting over the internet, just as you can see here, you type in blah, 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 you connect to the search head. The search head then provides you access to look at information on your indexes, which are stored locally only on your indexing level, meaning that not anybody can just go on the internet and just go access your indexers. And not anybody can go access your search engine because the connection to your search engine utilizes a VPN or utilizes some type of certificate or some type of connection that only your laptop has that allows you to make that connection. So there's certain ways that you can do that. But for the most part, just know that in order to connect to a resource that's provisioned over the internet, you have to have some type of special application or some type of special access key that's allowing you to then do those activities over the internet. So I hope that makes sense in regards to what we're talking about here. All right, any questions so far? right, cool. So what we're going to do today, just to end out the class, we're going to create an AWS instance, and then we're going to log into that instance. And we're going to repeat the same steps for the next class. And then we're going to download Splunk. And then when we download Splunk, we're going to install it and do all of that fancy stuff. But right now, all we're going to do is just provision ourselves an instance. So an instance, again, is just a virtual machine that we're going to create and be able to use that to do whatever we want, build applications and stuff like that on it. So when you go to facebook.com, all that stuff exists on some type of instance. It may exist on multiple instances, and it's spread across in a way where you don't have to feel, the weight of you accessing that. Right. So I created this server initially for something, but I'm going to end up deleting it. I don't think I need it no more. I was doing some testing on it. So let me terminate this instance. So for those who have AWS and just want to follow along, so whenever you get into your console, this is the management console, you have the ability to then launch a virtual machine from here by clicking this, or you can click EC2 instance if you've recently visited that, or you can go at the top up here and then type in EC2. And then this is one of those services that allows you to access. So AWS has a bunch of different services, and these services allow you to provision different sorts of like resources. So the resource that we're trying to provision right now is called compute. So we're trying to basically create a compute resource that allows us to build a virtual machine. So remember I had 3 instances before, but because I deleted that one, so that one is no longer working. So I can stop and do running, and then it'll now show me everything that I've had that's been either deleted. See, this one's been shutting down and this one has stopped. And then actually I need to probably delete these guys now because I don't need that anymore. So what I'm going to do is build a new instance. So I'm going to do a new instance. I'm going to launch that here. And I don't really care which one you use in terms of like the type, but ideally we're going to be working with Amazon Linux. It's the cheapest. So there is a cost affiliated to having a AWS account. It's fairly cheap. It can cost you anywhere from $2 to like $12 a month, or it can cost you to $2,000 a month. Just depends on what you provision. So I can provision something as crazy as, one of these down here, the Z1D metal, blah, blah, SSD, 25 gigabits of upstream, all this stuff. You don't need to necessarily worry about right now. We'll talk about that more in depth as we get through the course, but this is basically giving me like a beast of a machine. This is like a high powered machine that, let's say I'm doing some like data mining, or I'm doing some like high level work, and I need to have the most powerful machine that's just is doing a lot of compute. I don't need that. There's no way in heck I need that. And I think actually there's ones that are actually even more powerful than this one too. So like this guy right here, the XC1 with 128, like this is just, I mean, what the heck, 448. I mean, you're paying like, $1 million for these. So you can definitely do that if you start. So if you provision these, know what the heck you're doing. So just make sure you're very careful on there. But for the most part, you're going to be living way, 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 way at the top up here. You're going to be provisioning one of these little guys over here, and then go down here and start checking like, hey, let me make sure I don't have any of these other guys checked off over here. So when you provision instance, you're going to basically select one. So it's going to tell you currently selected, and then you can see here to make sure that you don't have these little beasts of machines down here set, and then you can look at the top up here what's been selected. So all you need is basically something just really minor right now. So we're just going to work initially with creating just a search head, and then we'll work on creating a folder, and we'll work on creating we're going to create a search head initially, and then we'll work on creating an indexer, and then we'll work on creating a folder as well. Right now, we're just going to provision just a small instance. So you can see here, this is one CPU, virtual CPU, and then this is one gig of memory. Really small, really small. Doesn't need to be anything too beefy. Now, in a production environment, meaning that you're working for some big company out there, Splunk does have its bare minimum requirements that it's going to have you. We're going to talk about that later. But for right now, we're just going to provision something very small just to kind of handle what we need to handle for our workload. So this is a free tier eligible, meaning that you have up to a certain number of free hours. So you can have this guy running, for up to, I think 750 hours. So you can have this running for this per month, and you could do whatever it is that you want to do with this. Just make sure that you shut it down when you're not using it. So we're going to select this, and then we're going to do next configure instance details. And then through here, don't worry too much about the rest of this. We're going to go through this a little bit later. This is not a cloud class, so I'm not going to be teaching you like a lot of cloud concepts, but I'm just going to be teaching you how to create a basic instance. So if you wanted to create multiple instances, you can do that here. If you wanted to request a spot instance, meaning that this is something that you're going to be using frequently and you're going to need that, you can request that. But for the most part, just all you need to do is just click one through here. You don't need to worry about the rest of the stuff through here. We'll talk about the rest of those things later. Whenever you create a Splunk instance, it's normally going to require at least 5 gigs in terms of like its data that's going to be collected initially when it gets started and whatnot. So I usually like to up this to be at least like 15 to 20 gigs. So that means, so this is your storage. So this is like the amount of information that you could store on this data before you're running out of disk space. So my local laptop itself, I have a certain amount of disk space. So whenever you buy a laptop, it tells you what the size of your storage is. So that's what this is right here. This is the size of your storage. So I usually like to do this like at 15 or so. I'm going to keep this right now at 8, just so you can see what happens when you install Splunk on an instance that has low storage. So right now I'm just going to keep this as 8. And then don't worry about the IOPS and all that stuff. That stuff we'll talk about later. This basically is just telling you what your root device is. We'll talk about all this stuff later for those who have no clue what some of these things mean. So we'll go to add tags. Don't need to add any tag right now. Configure security group. So right now, we're going to just let it just do a default security group so that you guys can know what security groups are and how they work. And by default, the security groups, you're going to need to access the instance through SSH, meaning that whenever you create an instance, a Linux instance in this case, in order to be able to log into that machine, you're going to need to have certain ports open. And this port specifically is going to be port 22 for a Linux machine, and then for a Windows machine, it's going to be different. It's going to be the RDP port in order for you to use that. I think RDP is, I think it's 389. It's either 389, 3389. Let me double check that. Let's do RDP. Yeah, 3389. All right, and I think 389 is LDAP. All right. So we're just creating a Linux instance for right now. You don't have to worry about Windows and all that. We'll do that later. But right now, we're just going to create a basic Linux instance because we're going to be working primarily with Linux. All right, so we're through here. All right, so we got our port. We got the source. So this right here basically says that 0.0.0.0 means that anything, anywhere can access. And when you do a /0, it can access this virtual machine. So this means that anybody in the world, anywhere they're located, as long as they have access to a computer, they can basically try to access my machine, which is fine because they need to have a PEM file, which is what we're going to create over here. So this key pair is what we're going to now use to be able to what do you call it? This key pair is what we're going to use now to be able to log into the machine. So we're going to create a new key pair. And then this key pair now is, we're going to call this, new access key. And then it's gonna ask us, to download that key pair. So this is very important. Without a key pair, you cannot access that server. So what the key pair looks like is, let me see if I can move it across. I can't over here. Let me do this and then move this over here so you can see what that looks like. So this is what the key pair looks like. It's basically like a private key. So this is what you need to keep secret all the time. So this private key, anyone that has access to this private key essentially now can hack into your computer and they can do whatever on your computer. So you need to keep that key pair secure. That's your, that's like your lifeline. So in your environment, whenever you get into a job, they're gonna say, hey, we need to have a key pair. And that key pair has a private and has a public key. The public key exists on your computer. Let me give another picture. So if I wanted to access this virtual machine, the public key would exist on here, and then I will have the private key. So I will communicate to this guy, say, hey, I need to talk to you. And then this guy would check my private key that's located on here. Say, okay, this private key matches what I have here for my public key. So yeah, you're good. We can talk. So there's some secret, kung fu that happens there. And as they communicate, they're not able to basically authenticate, say, okay, this guy is someone that I trust and he can access, my server to do whatever it is that they need to do. There's more to that process. I may explain that a little bit more, but for those who are new to IT, I don't really want to blow your minds like initially first trying to explain, key exchange and how that works. But right now it's just more of understanding that there is a private key that you're going to get, and that private key is what you're going to keep secure. In IT world, you never, ever, 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 ever share your private key with anyone. You never, ever, ever share your private key with anyone. That's just your private key that you keep. You will share your public key, but you never, ever share your private key with anyone. Now, there's certain instances where they may have you do that, but that's very, 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 very rare that they'll ask you to do anything like that. All right, so we're going to call this new instance. I'm just going to give this a name. We're going to try to keep to the naming convention so you guys understand what instances and whatnot. So now that we've created this, you're going to need a tool to be able to log into this guy over the port 22 that we've talked about. So what we're going to need to do then is download a SSH client. So let's see if there's a picture for it. So there's a bunch of SSH clients. So this is essentially what allows you to do. Allows you to now go on command line. So I'm going to pull up my SSH client that I use. You can use whatever you want to use, but this is the one I use. This is called iTerm. So let's clear this. So this is backend. So, and most of you who have Macs, you can do, you're going to have this thing called Terminal, which is an SSH client also. So Terminal allows you to, let me see if I can pull up Terminal. Where's Terminal at? Okay, so this is Terminal. So Terminal basically is what comes with every MacBook. You're now allowed to be able to do a bunch of stuff. So on your Windows, for those of you who have Windows, you have what's called a command prompt. A command prompt, however, cannot do SSH. I've never used it to do SSH activities with command prompts. With PowerShell, you can if you have certain SSH tools installed there, but the command prompt doesn't do traditionally SSH. And I've never seen an environment that can make that work. It may be able to do it, but I've never ever been in an environment where they use command prompts to do SSH. So this is what your command prompt will look like. Prompt. Windows. So for those of you who've never used the command prompt, this is what that is. That's what your command prompt will look. You know, this is a system. That's essentially what that would look like. All right. This is more like an updated one of what you should see. So that's what your command prompts look like. And we'll get on a Windows server to show you that also. But for right now, for those who have Windows, this is what it'll look like. Your command prompt won't allow you to SSH, but what you'll need to do then is download a tool called Putty. or you can download another tool called Mobile Xterm that will allow you to do the same thing. So let me go here. So Putty, this is where Putty's at. I'm going to send this to you guys here. Chat for those of you who have Windows. So this is Putty. So you're going to click this link right here, and then you're going to download the 64-bit, because none of you should have a 32-bit system. You're going to download the 64-bit MSI, and this is just Microsoft installation package. So you're going to download this, and then you're going to run through the process. You're just going to click through, and next class we'll walk through somebody that has a Windows one, and we'll show you exactly what to do there. So you're going to click this. It's going to run through a prompt. It's going to download it. You're going to double click it and execute the program. And that program is going to install an application for you now that allows you to then SSH to other Linux or possibly Linux-based systems as well. So let's go back to here. So this is what we have here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the public IP. So whenever you need to connect to something over the internet, you need to grab the public IP. You cannot use a private IP. So what I mean by that is this. There's an IP address that each device that is able to communicate over the internet will have. So because I need to communicate through the internet to connect to, let's say, my search edits here, it needs to have a public IP that I'm going to be able to talk with. There's other things that you can do, other sorts of appliances and applications that you can set up that can, basically have this guy not talk to the internet for security reasons, but we're not going to get into that as much. But just know that if this needs to communicate, it needs to have a public IP of some sort. So whether you have something in the middle or whether you have it communicate directly to this guy, it needs to be able to have some sort of address that's routable over the internet. And let's talk about that quickly. Not necessarily talk about it. Let me just about IP address ranges. So here, so this is network fundamentals. Read through this whenever you get a chance. Google, just kind of read, and you're gonna have to do a lot of reading in here. So these are examples of IP addresses that are internal. So anything that starts with a 10 dot or 172 dot or 192 dot, these things cannot go over the internet. So I cannot access some resource, some server over the internet by using any of these IP addresses. It's just not possible. You'll have to do a natting of this, meaning that you'll have to translate what these look at to use a public IP. So a public IP is what's assigned to anything that needs to communicate over the internet. So that public IP then is what's going to be used, and that's what we're going to communicate with at the AWS level. So here, I'm going to go here. So remember that key that I downloaded, which is the PEM file, the new access key.pem. What we're going to do then is we're going to look at where that location is at. So we're going to do our finder so that you guys can see me do what I need to do here. So downloads, and then you see at the top of here, it should be that new access key .pem. So this is actually a PEM file. So we need to strip off this TXT extension. So we're going to delete that. Then we're going to say that, and then we're just going to say use PEM. And then now you see how this just transformed. Now it's transformed into a PEM file for me. So we're going to look at this on the back end and what this looks like, because we're going to always work on back end. So this is the back end class. So the location of this right now is in my download section. So we're going to go to my download section. So on the command line, we'll clear my screen. So when I do PWD, means where am I currently in my location. So it tells me I'm at users, SAR-Levy, and .ssh. So anytime you need to go somewhere, typically start at root. So slash is root. So CD slash means that I'm located in root, and then you'll always see the location right here. So it's telling me that I'm in root. So if I were to CD this, it tells me I'm in my home directory. So this is home. But CD slash tells me I'm in my okay. So CD slash is telling me that I'm in my root directory. So I CD slash. So then I'm gonna do a ls, and then this lists out the different locations I can go to. So I know that I need to go to my downloads folder. And my downloads folder is located in my users. You don't need to worry about why that is right now. Just know that's located in my user directory. Now I'm going to do another ls to see what else is in here. And then I'm going to cd into my username, which is this right here. This is where I currently am at. So I'm going to cd into sar.levy. And cd means change directory. I'm going to change directory into that. I'm going to look at what else is in here. Then now you see I'm in my downloads, or now I see my downloads. I'm not in my downloads quite yet. Right now I'm in my home directory, but I see there's a downloads. So I'm going to cd to downloads. And then now in my downloads. So for those of you who are wondering, okay, how is it able to complete without me typing it? I'm just pressing tab. So if I do tab, it lists all the different possibilities of the things I can do. I'm not going to do that right now because there's 1,492 different possibilities. I'm just going to ls. So ls tells me, okay, these are all the different things that are in here, list of different stuff in here. So I want to list out just my PEM file. So my PEM file, I think, started with new something. I'm going to type in n, and then I'm going to tab twice to complete it for me. This only works with Linux-based systems. With Windows, I've actually never used tab that much with it. There may be a way to enable that, but I've never really used that with Windows. So this is the key right here. So I'm going to type in new. I'm just going to press tab again, and then it tells me, okay, you have a bunch of new things that are called new. So we know that it's new access underscore key, I think is what I named it. So new underscore, I'm going to tab again, and now it tells me that. So when I list this out, it tells me, okay, now this is just what you have here. So I need to use this key now. So in order to use a key on a Unix or a Linux machine, for those who have Mac, or let's say you're building a Linux machine on your local that you're going to use, what you're going to need to do then is you're going to need to put this key typically inside of your .ssh folder. If you don't have one, you can create one, but you want to keep this key secure. And in most environments, you're going to want to put that in your .ssh. That's where most of your keys are going to be located. So in order to do this, I'm going to say, okay, pwd, where am I at currently? I'm in the users, sar.levy downloads, and I'm looking at this new key.pem. So what I'm going to do then is go to cd. It's going to tell me now I am in my, what do you call it? I'm in my root folder for me as the user. It's like my personal home directory. Now I'm going to do ls again. And when I do ls, it only lists out stuff that's like visible. So there's a thing in Linux called hidden files, and those start with a dot. So if I do an ls-a, it's going to list out all the hidden files, and they start with a dot. And the reason why they're hidden is because they're supposed to be more super secret and super secured for you, that only you need to know about it. So, and whenever you see a thing that's in blue versus a thing that's in white, so this is a file versus this is a folder. If you don't know what a file folder is, just think about it in terms of like this. So this is a folder. I can go inside of this folder and access files. Whereas a file is just something where you can read, and it allows you to do something. It's like if you create a document versus creating a folder that has a bunch of different documents in it. So right now we're going to go inside of this folder. So cd, and then we're going to put a dot and then S, and then see now tab complete. So now it tells us you're in your home directory, and then you're in .ssh. So I can do this from anywhere now. So let's say I wanted to go to, where's that location I was at earlier? This location right here, right? This is the downloads location. I can do that. It tells me now you're in downloads. I can do CD, and then I can just grab this right here. And then now I'm in my .ssh. So you can do it that way as well. So I'm in my .ssh. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to move this file that's located in this location there. And then in order to access that file, it's just like this. So if I were right now, if I were to go to users, sar.levy downloads, where I would essentially be is, and let me do this. I think this would make more sense if for those of you that have no clue what I'm talking about, I think this would make more sense. So in here, what I'm doing then essentially is on the front end, I am in this location, but I've not told the computer that I want to access this key yet. So in order to tell I want to access the key, I need to close this and then say new, and then I can do underscore access. Now I'm telling, okay, I want to access this key. This is the file I want to access. So what I'm doing is say I'm going to move this file, MV's move. I want to move this file to this location where I'm at, and that's a dot. So this location I'm at currently is right here. So I need to move users star.levy downloads new access key to this location. And once I do that, if you have a bad command, or if you have something that doesn't exist, it's gonna error out. So if I run this, it says no such file. When there's an error, it's because I've already moved it. It says there's no file there. And you know that file is gone now, because if you look on the left side over here, that file is no longer located. So let's move let's move this PNG file here. Okay, so I'm gonna do another move. I'm gonna move 6_11. I'm gonna move that here, and then you're gonna see this file disappear from this side here. So now you see that file's gone, right? So then we can do that in reverse now. We're gonna say move in reverse. All we're doing is just say you're gonna move, you're gonna name the name of the file, which is 6_11. And before I actually even do that move, I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna show you now what's here. So if I do an ls in here, you'll see that 6.11. Let me just scroll up here. Scroll. So you see this file is located here, right? So what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna move this file that's located in my SSH directory. So we're gonna move, and then just name the name of the file. And then you're gonna say I want to move that. I already did that here actually, so I'm sorry. So we're gonna say move this file that's located in this current location to that current location. So once I do that, then you see that file should pop up over here again. All right. So essentially what we've done is just move the file. And the reason why, again, we move it to the SSH is because whenever you have pen files, you want to keep those secure, because those are very important. As you can see here, I'm not doing that on my local because I'm silly, but don't mind me for right now. All right, so now we are in this current location. So I'm just going to close this. We don't need this anymore. So if you don't want to look at files in this long way, you can do an ls-m, which basically allows you to look at all files in an ordered way where you can read it this way. So there's a whole bunch of other flags you can use with this. And these, whenever you do a dash something, that's called a flag in IT terminology, especially when it comes to command line. Whenever you give arguments, it's like giving a flag to do something. So flag arguments are used interchangeably. So what we're looking for is that new class pen file. So it's in alphabetical order. So this new class key is here. So in order for this key to work appropriately, we're going to do an ls-l, and then we're going to do the new key. And this key needs to be only readable for, I think it's going to complain about it for me as a user. In the Linux world, the first three characters here represent you as the owner, and then the next three represent a group that you belong to, and then the last three represents others. So meaning that if anybody were to log into your computer, the R means that they can read that file. If there's no R, that means that they don't have access to that file. And if there's an R here, means that they're part of a group. So think about it like you're part of a fraternity. So if you're part of that fraternity, you have access to read anything that's within that fraternity. Or your branch manager is not part of your group that can access your personal information or your banking information, so they can read your data based on that. So that's what's happening here. And then your read-write access, basically saying, as the owner of that file, I can read and I can write into that file. So we'll talk about permissions a little bit later, and I'll send you a bunch of videos on that. This class isn't really a Linux class, and I would really hope that you guys do your own sort of due diligence and do some Googling and some outside studying as well, because that's going to help you, make things much easier to understand. But I will talk about some of these concepts as we go through to make it easier on you. All right, so again, read, write, and then what's missing here is an X. So if I were to do a chmod plus X, chmod basically means change or modify. And I'm going to say add an executable for this file. So what happens is once I do that, and then I do this command again, you're going to see that's going to change colors. So now this file is green versus what it was white. So then you see what happens here is added an X. So now these files are now executable, meaning that if this was like a program that I could run that executes something, it can do that. But we don't need this file to be executable. We're not executing anything on here. So what I'm going to do then is take away that X. So I'm just going to do the same thing, just do a minus. And now if I do ls again, so now I see it's back to regular. So now that executable is gone. Now to access our server, this is the last part, then we'll stop here. I gave you guys an extra 30 minutes since I was 30 minutes late. So SSH -I, this is the syntax you're going to use. So the -I, SSH means I want to use the SSH protocol to use a file. And this file is going to be new access key.pem. And I want to access a computer called 54. Blah, blah, blah. So in order to access this, there's a shortcut here. So let's say connect. And then there's an easy, yeah, okay, so here it is, yeah. So this will tell you the user that you can connect as. So if you have other users that you've created, you can create a different user as well. But in this case, we're going to use EC2 instance or EC2-user as the username. And in most environments, 95%, you're going to log in as the EC2 user. That's just, it's just best practice or common practice to do that. So what we're going to do then is going to say, I want to log in as the user. So EC2-user. And I wanted to log in at, and then that at then is going to be what allows you to pull the name of the IP. If you have a server that has a public that has a DNS name and that's recognized by your server, you can also use the name of that server. So if I wanted to access, sarsfavorlaptop.com and that's registered and that's something that it's recognized, I can clearly do that as long as I have a PIM file. So I'll do this and then it should error out, I believe. So now it's telling me, hey, there's a host, blah, 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 can't be established. Basically it's telling me that this is my first time I'm logging into this. Do I want to add this to my host file? I say yes. And it says, hey, permission denied. And then it says, load key unix bad permissions. So what this means, bad permissions, is that on my file, it says this is a private key. It needs to be private to only me. Only I need to see that. So then what I would do on my chmod key then is I'll do another chmod. And then what I'm going to do then is, let me see if I can explain this in a good way. So this is the last thing to explain. This is a lot. So go back and definitely review chmod command. Let's do, trying to think of like a good article to give you. Yeah, I think this is okay. Yeah. All right. I'm trying to give you by the numbers because numbers are going to be very important. There it is. Yeah. So right here. So this is what I wanted to give you. All right. So I'm going to paste this in here for you guys to see. So whenever you give a command, chmod, you can have up to 7 digits. So 4 is to read, 2 is to write, 1 is to execute. So if I wanted, me as a user, just a private user here for this specific file to be able to just me access it. So meaning that I want to be able to read and write it only me. What I would do then, the first number is, again, this is for me as a private user. This is for my group. and these 3 are for my others. So if I wanted just me, so I would just do a chmod, the first letter, so it'd be 700. So that means that I want me as a user to be able to read, write, and execute this file, and then nobody else to be able to do anything else. I'm not giving them any permissions. So then if you go here, you see that 0 means no permissions. That means nobody else can do anything. So if I wanted to do it the other way, and if I did 0077, so that means that me as a user, I can't do anything, but others can do something, and then the group can do something. But right now, I'm just saying I'm doing a 700 on this. So that means if I were to run that ls again, now you see that's been changed. Now nobody else can do anything except me on this file. But we gave it an executable, but we don't want that executable. So what you can do then is same thing with chmod. Instead of a 700, you can go here and read this. So execute is 1. So then to not execute will be a 4 and 2 then, right? So that would be 4 plus 2 would be 6. So if I do that, and I do ls again now, so now you see it does a read and a write, because 4 is to read, 2 is to write. So there's a read and a write, and then it doesn't do that 1, which is the executable, which is down here. So it doesn't do the executable. So we just need this file to be able to just do a basic read and write for only me. Nobody else should be able to do anything, only me. And for only me, it's only the first 3. So then now if I try to do my SSH command again, I run this, voila, we're now on our EC2 instance. And the reason why we know it's whenever you get on an EC2 instance, you'll see this little thing right here. And then of course this will change to tell you you're now EC2 user. And it's a way to find that out. You can just do a who am I, or you can just look at your screen literally. Who am I? And it'll tell you who you are as a user, which is what you'll see here. That's been changed now. So I'm no longer this guy. Now I am the EC2 user on a new computer. So I know that was a lot. I'll stop there to give you guys time to ask questions. And for next class, I'm going to put this recording so that you guys will be able to have access to this video. Typically, Saidu helps me out assisting with this. He'll come the next day and he'll just upload the videos to the class website, and then you guys will be able to access this video to view and practice and whatnot. But I'll stop there for a second to give you guys a chance to ask any questions. So go.
What is the class website?
You said what is the class website? Oh, the
Yeah.
YouTube page. So let me go to here.
We don't have that address.
Let me get that for you guys. So switch accounts. Okay, so this is my site, and then let me go to my videos. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new playlist. So I'm going to create a new playlist, and we're going to call this Splunk back end. This is going to be a unlisted. So again, because this is a class that's paid for, please don't just share this with anyone. This is just for you guys to see and to utilize. So this is what you're going to use. So on here, once I start adding videos, I'm going to share this right here. All the videos that I upload would be under this link. So every time you go to this link now, starting tomorrow, you'll be able to see that this class video is going to be uploaded, and it's going to tell you. I'm going to give a little brief description of what the class is about so that you'll have that. So I just put that in the chat. Any questions about that?
So you're going to send it to us by email or something?
So all the videos I will upload in the WhatsApp chat.
Yeah,
It's been uploaded with the link, but I'll just tell you it's been uploaded, and then you can just access that same link I sent you. All the videos, since you have a playlist now, will be listed under that. So today's class, Thursday's class, and moving forward, as long as you use that playlist link, they'll always be under there. All right. Any other questions?
is there a way we can maybe get a pre-instruction on what we're going to be doing the next day. Like some of us who are new, we want to see whether we can research or do a few jobs before we get into the class so we can follow properly.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I usually have a slide like we did a front end. I'll get that for you. I didn't have that for you guys today, so that's my apologies. But I have that for you for next class. What I typically use is give like a run through. Let me show you like an example. My front end. So I'm looking over my of course, we want to find something, so it's like difficult for you to find. While I'm looking for this, any other questions?
Yes, with the trying to SSH into like the instances that you create, the different options that we have for Mac, Linux and Windows. So I see with AWS, they have an option where you can do EC2 connect and just SSH from the web. Is that something that is widely used? Is it safe or?
Yeah, it's not widely. That is an option. Yeah, that's not widely used at all, but that is an option. Where is that option that actually is to connect?
Yeah, you can say connect there.
So this is not widely used at all. And then this terminal is like pretty trash as well. So as you can see, you can do all of the same things. So you see I'm on the same instance, but
yeah, just with that, you don't have to go through all that pen file and everything, just takes you directly to the page.
this, if you want to do it, yes, but you need to learn how to do this because this is for everyone that's planning on working in Splunk World.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking if like organizations are maybe using that also.
Yeah. 99% of the time you have to connect to the instance. And oftentimes this is disabled also. This functionality is also disabled. I don't know why the heck I cannot find my that old class thing. Any other questions so far? Wow, I still keep looking for this thing.
So
Yes.
can I use CentOS? Can I use that for it?
Yeah, CentOS is fine. You can build another option for those of you who don't want to get what do you call it, a cloud environment because you want to save a couple of dollars. You can do VirtualBox. You can Google how to install VirtualBox, but VirtualBox basically uses, if you have a pretty beefy computer that's pretty fast and also pretty strong, you can create an instance you can hypervise basically your on your local computer, and hypervise essentially is basically using a resource from your local computer to provision another virtual machine on your local instance. And then that local VM now, when I say local means that it's on your laptop, is local to you. You can then now use to do your SSH activity and do all those other things. So you can do that as well. And you could create both, a bunch of other resources, but just know that it uses the resource on your local computer. So if you need that for other things, your local computer is going to be slow. But that's also an option for those of you who want to use VirtualBox. There are many people who use VirtualBox that teach that way as well. So I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So with regards to, I know all of us will be having AWS account or whatever cloud service that you want to use. So what are we responsible for? It's just like launching a forwarder and and then connecting that to I know you'd have your own environment, which would be maybe a clustered environment and all that will be forwarding logs to.
No, you guys
are we going to have our own environment also and then launch our own instances there and do all the configurations, all the clustering there, or how is it going to work?
You guys are building everything on your own. Yeah, clustering, all that is going to be on your own. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So that's the reason I have you guys downloading either this software or using some type of cloud service, because all of this you're going to build. The only thing that's going to be unique is that you guys are going to connect your servers to my license. That's outside of that, that's it. You guys are going to build everything on your own and use that. Why the heck can I find my daggone class things? That's insane. Sorry, guys.
So it's allowed that, all of us are able to use your license at the same time?
Yeah, my license. Now, I'm going to try to petition to get an extra 10 to 20 gigs from Splunk as a trial license, like a dev license, and then we'll use that for next month or so. But in the meantime, you guys could definitely utilize my license. That's not a big deal. Just as long as you're not investing 10 gigabytes of data per day or something crazy, which none of you should be doing that anyway. You guys are not in a production environment. Yeah, you guys, whatever you spin up should be more than enough for me to be able to handle.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
I'm wondering, do you have some kind of course outline for the entire course?
So I do it based on class to class. I've done a course outlines before, and that's not gone very well because I've had to go back often. So I basically just go on a fly in regards to teaching you step by step how to do stuff. So I'm going to have you guys build out individual instances, and then from there, we're going to build clustering. I've had classes where I spent 4 days on clustering. I've had classes where I spent, when I mean 4 days, I mean 4 classes. And I've had classes where I spent like 2 months on clustering. At the end of the day, I want you guys to make sure that you understand every aspect. We're not going to deliberate too long on one topic, but I want you guys to understand fully what we're going to be doing. I do have an overview, if that's going to be helpful, and I'll send you guys the overview. But in terms of we're going to do this class, we're going to do this class, we're going to do that class. That's not worked for me in the past. Even with the front end, that wasn't working because I've had to go back and reteach a lot of things.
Oh, okay. The overview should work. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I'm sorry, I'm really upset that I cannot find my daggone thing. Give me a second. Let me go to my front end. I'll give you guys an example of that because this is really bothering me that I cannot find that. All right, so front end. All right, front end. Okay. Documents. It's really blown it. Let's see these in my. All right, so. Links, docs. All right, there we go. All right. So let me open one of these chunks. Of course, text rounds open. All right, so open up one of these. It's loading. Open, yeah. There we go. So this is what typically I do right before class for you guys to see. And, so we'll go over something like this typically. So like in front of class, we'll do typically, if it's for class, we'll do like a review of what we did in the last class, and then we'll talk about dashboards, and then we'll talk about something like the subtopics we'll talk under it. And then we'll try to cover all of this. But what I found is oftentimes, even with my last class, I'll do a dashboards and then I have to go back and then do another intro, not necessarily intro, but do another review of what we did as far as a review for the previous 2 classes. So this is what this will look like. I'll send this guys, I'll send the overview for you guys after this, and then from there, I could do it like a mini breakdown, but again, we're not going to stick to that because that's just not really worked. I went up to, I think, like lesson 12 or 13 doing that, and then after that, I was like, all right, let's just free ball it, because we were just going back into a lot of things that I thought we were past, which is okay. You know, I want to make sure everybody's getting what we're talking about, and that we are all moving together. Speaking of which, moving together. So last course, I had a bunch of people, and previous courses as well. They did a cohort in which that they had their own separate, you know, sort of group outside of just my class. You guys, they met together and they will, you know, talk about, you know, what we discussed in class, what were the challenges, and, you know, just kind of doing some of the basics things, and it helped them to really progress really well. I fully expect that you guys would do the same thing moving forward. So whether you guys want to meet once a week and just practice the stuff together, whether it's a Saturday, a Friday, or a Wednesday or Monday, I really don't care, but I expect you guys to do that. And I think in the front end, I think Saidi, you guys met, was it twice or once?
Yeah, twice at least.
Okay, so I expect you guys to do the same thing. That's, you know, that's how folks were progressing through this. They were meeting and they were able to start understanding like some of these things a lot better. Just doing the class itself is not going to do you justice. You know, we only do like what, an hour and a half. You know, sometimes we may go to 2 hours. Maximum I try to do maybe 2.5, but you know, I try to do, you know, keep honest to the time. But that's still not going to do justice to what you guys need to do outside of the class. That's where you really excel, is when you start practicing this stuff. Because when you start getting questions about, okay, how do I need to, you know, format my PEM file to be able to log into a virtual machine? A question like that should be easy for you to do because you've practiced it so much when you build new virtual machines and you SSH them and you create and you do the steps by steps. It's a lot easier for you to do. But if you're not practicing it and you're just going off of what SAR said in the class, that's not going to help you. It's not going to last. So I fully expect you guys to do this moving forward. All right. Any other questions? I know we're well over time now. It's 10:45.
So can we get contacts for each other?
Yeah, so all of you are in the WhatsApp group. Just kind of put your name. Just say my name is blah blah on the WhatsApp group, because your name might be saved as something else that I saved you as. I may save you as, you know, Ebby's friend, or I don't know some of your last names. I say I think I named some of you like, you know, like David, you know, Ebby's friend, or Sobi. I don't know, put your last name there. So just put your full name in there, who you are, so people can save your contact information.
Okay.
Yeah, with regards to, like, you know, meeting for extra classes, if we're interested, let's just state that on the group. We normally, what we do is for the last class, we created an extra group that we called a study group, and so, you know, we're not like everything posting on the general group. So we did most of our communications there and plannings. Yeah, we can create a group just for, you know, the backend study, but we want to know how many people are interested, so we take it from there.
So is it okay to just put it in the WhatsApp? I'm interested.
Okay, so yeah, so on the group, on the backend group there that Sir has, let's just put in there like whoever is interested. So you can say, my name is this, I'm interested in the study group. We collect all those names and create a WhatsApp group for the study.
Sign me on.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That's it for this class. I'll provide a recording either tonight or tomorrow, more than likely tomorrow. Do my share. I'll provide a recording for you guys tomorrow. And then I always talk about this, not the friendliest or not necessarily friendliest, but not the most exciting piece. But for those who are interested in staying in the class, please make sure you set up a payment plan or something like that with me, so I know that you're still interested in staying and continue with the course. And for many of you who've already done that, that's fine. Don't need to talk about that. But I just want to reiterate this so that if you're evicted out, like, hey, why did Sar kick me out? It's just I just want to make sure that you're interested in staying and continue with the course. But thank you guys for being here so far. We have a long journey ahead, and I think we will do well. I'm going to work hard to make sure I provide you the best resources I can, and make sure that this class is valuable and helpful to you. And I ask you to do the same. Ask a bunch of questions during your class. Google, YouTube, come with as many questions as you can, and then I'll do my best to answer those questions. And if I don't know answers, which I don't know the answers to everything, I'll come back to the next class and research it and have the answers for you. So, all right, guys, that is it for today.